Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of DEO Growth Secrets. I'm your fearless host, Emmett Scott, and today I've got Dr. Kwane Watson with Care Mobile here with us, and he's a serial entrepreneur who's been, after years of leading community dental, was inspired to improve Medicaid patient access and founded Care, originally a mobile app connecting patients to same-day dental care, which later evolved into a mobile operatory model offering scalable opportunities for providers. The company has since developed schedule optimization software for mobile dentistry and is now expanding partnerships across multiple states, including Kentucky, Nevada, Florida, Texas, Michigan, and Georgia. All great football teams in there too. So that's awesome. Quan, so great to have you on here. And yeah, I'd love you to just tell, I gave the short bio, but tell us a little bit about who's Quan Watson.
Awesome. And Emmett, thank you for the opportunity. So a little bit about Kwane Watson. I've been a dentist now for 26 years from live in Louisville, Kentucky, graduated from the University of Kentucky. Um, you know, owned two brick and mortar practices. I actually acquired a practice a year after graduation, did a de novo that I started in '07. A lot of times people ask me what got me into the mobile dentist. I said business. And I said, I started a de novo practice in '07 and the economy tanked. And after I was able to exit both practices, I became the dental director for DentaQuest for the state of Kentucky on both the insurance side as well as the care delivery side. And I managed their practices throughout the state of Kentucky. And I started Care as I just witnessed the overwhelming problem with access to oral health care, especially in the rural community. So I developed an app to connect patients to dentists with an open chair, wanted to license it to DentaQuest. That didn't happen. So being a serial entrepreneur and not wanting to fail, I built out a single chair van. And when someone downloaded my app in Kentucky, especially in Louisville, I would go to their home and provide comprehensive dental services. And from that, we've kind of scaled the mobile dental operations to where we are today.
Tell me about building this app. What does that take? Because I mean, people come up with cool ideas. It looks so good on the whiteboard.
Yeah, yeah.
And then you
Well,
get into the details.
you know, first you have to have an idea and to figure out the functionality that you want to have in the application. Back then, that was 2017 when I did the first application that we developed, the same day connecting one. We did it in native language. As right now, you can actually develop apps a lot cheaper by not making them native
Mm.
in development. You can do like a hybrid application.
You're not
But
just a doctor, you're a software engineer at this point,
I
basically.
actually, I actually am not, but I've had to learn,
Yeah, yeah,
you learn
totally.
by trial and error. And so we built it out trying to mimic some of the functionality that you see in Uber's applications and in Uber as well as Lyft.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so it
And
was
why
very
was that important? Why, I mean, when you think of mobile dentistry, I don't think the first place people go is you better have a really good app.
correct,
But
correct. No,
it's the efficiency requirements, isn't it?
well, the application was how I started the business. The
Yeah.
mobile only came because the application, the hardest thing in the world is to get people to download even a free application because
Mm,
you got to have a reason for them to do it, especially if you haven't raised suitable capital to market it effectively. So
sure.
basically, for me, the application came first because I thought it was a great tool that would be able to enhance access, if that makes sense. The
Got it.
problem is I did not do a good job of creating a go-to-market strategy. My
Mm,
go-to-market strategy depended on the MCOs white labeling the application. And when they didn't
gotcha.
white label the application, I had to pivot my go-to-market strategy, which was connect the application to a service. And that's
Mm.
where the mobile side of it came into play. And that's how I got people to start downloading the application for
Oh,
free.
gotcha.
Does
So,
that make sense?
yeah, so initially you're like, hey, this will be great for the Medicaid providers. They can, when people sign up, they can say, download this app. Then they could easily find their dentist at their brick and mortar shop, etc. And they said, no, thanks. We don't want to make it that convenient for people. And so then you're like, what am I going to do with this app now? And all of a sudden you said, why don't I make this mobile dentistry?
Yes.
Wow, you are flaming entrepreneur. Holy smokes.
Yeah. So what happened was my a buddy of mine has food truck business. And so what we would do is we would buy an old truck off a line, offline, renovate it into a food truck and flip it. And
Mm.
so I said, hey, can you put a chair in a van? And that was the first iteration. If you follow us on Instagram and go all the way to the beginning, you'll see the initial van that we did back in 2018, where you download the app, I would come to your home and do those services. Now our entire business model is totally different from that now, but that was the origin. And before this started, Emmett, one of the things you said was, you know, what is the biggest challenge that I've had? And the biggest challenge I've had is to continue to pivot
Mm.
as the world gave me a different look on what I need to do to be sustainable. And that's been the biggest challenge, but also the best opportunity for me at the same time.
Yeah, I mean, not only have you pivoted, but you've persevered through this because you really have not. I mean, I've known you for a long time and
Yeah.
you've continued to figure out and develop what I've felt was genius about mobile dentistry is that the world craves like one thing now, one product, and it's called convenience, right? And Amazon has completely spoiled us. It's like, why does it have to be 2 days? Couldn't it be the same day? Why couldn't it, be even faster in 1 hour, et cetera? What do you mean I can't buy that there? So we're all so entitled that to have things convenient. And I think for even brick and mortar shops, like if you don't have online scheduling, you are missing a huge boat of just convenience. What I always have thought would be so challenging is how do you make that efficient, right? And you've been working on this. So I'm curious, as you've continued to drive, you know, the convenience, how have you thought about the efficiency of that too?
Well, the efficiency for us comes in a number of different ways. Number one, utilization of technology. The technology, especially AI, has made us way more efficient in our processes and systems. And
Explain that, like in what way?
man, so we use AI at almost every step of our business. So we use an AI agent that actually answers our phone calls because now our customer, we don't go directly to consumer. A lot of times our customers are the insurance companies. So, with Medicaid, all the MCOs have an expectation that they have to hit certain HEDIS measures. And these HEDIS measures, they have a hard time hitting, especially in rural communities. And so what we have pivoted the business to do is to set up partnerships in these rural communities where the vans, multiple of them, can be on a particular cadence throughout an entire state. So I can have 10 chairs or 10 vans in specific areas that the insurance companies kind of earmark for us. And that's where these individuals come to get their dental services rendered, as opposed to having to go to one of the two state universities in the state of Kentucky to have services rendered. So it cuts down their drive time by 2 to 3 hours. But the challenge with that is the insurance companies will pay us to facilitate these things, but now our call volume is astronomical. It's through the roof.
Mm,
And based on my revenue, though, as we know, we can only afford to pay so much for call center staff. So the
right.
biggest challenge that my call center would say, even though we outsource those services around the world, is that we cannot handle the call volume. Last year alone, we had 31,000 calls, right?
Wow.
But we don't have the workforce to serve 31,000 individuals.
Mhm.
So using an AI agent, so we have a very specific way where we use an AI agent to answer all of our initial calls. And what that does is allow that first patient experience to be one with the AI agent. And it automatically schedules the appointments through Ascend, which saves me money, right? And
Right.
it reduces patient complaints of can't never get anybody when I try to call. So that's one tool that we use. Another
Now, when we
tool,
think of real quick, when you think of mobile dentistry, I want to set the landscape. I think the first place we think is people are scheduling and saying, can you be at my home at 2 o'clock? Your mobile dentistry is more like your food truck concept, right? So it's like we will be here and you schedule appointments. So you're gaining efficiency by not having the truck driving around all day.
100%. Yeah, the trucks
Gotcha.
don't drive. The trucks don't drive anymore. The trucks haven't driven since 2020. So the
Okay.
trucks are stationary. in specific locations where we have partnerships with churches, community centers, um, you know, public health departments,
Mm.
where
Are they literally full time right there? They stay in that parking spot.
they stay in that parking spot, usually on a 2 to 3 day a week rotation.
Okay. Okay. So they need to be mobile still for you to, but it truly is like a food truck type, comparison. And then someone can schedule their appointments as they would any dental practice.
Yeah.
And you say, I'll be in parking lot number 3,
Well,
right?
they schedule their appointment. We have a certain systems and processes where we don't like same day appointments. We have people schedule 48 hours in advance, so it gives us time to verify insurance breakdowns, so on and so forth. Um, and so it makes sure that from a collection standpoint, we're able to achieve what's necessary because we don't have. We actually run our Medicaid practices like you would run a regular PPO practice, where we have set schedules. We don't do walk-ins. It's really structured because we have such a volume opportunity. I don't have to do those type of
Is your
things.
show rate usually with Medicaid, you need to double or triple book just to
We don't
manage?
we don't do that.
Yeah. So your show rate is decent enough.
Yes, because basically in our confirmation process, if you don't confirm your appointment, we'll cancel your appointment. So what I learned, even with Medicaid patients, if you set the expectation and you have a service that they really need in an area where they have very few other opportunities, they're more likely to comply. The reason how I learned it the best is the oral surgeons in Kentucky. They become really strict to where if you cancel one time on them, they won't reschedule your appointment. And I
Oh,
would have
wow.
patients say, "I'm going to make sure I make that oral surgery appointment, or they won't take me again." I was like,
Uh,
"Oh, you'll do that for them, but if I give you this leniency, you won't do that for me."
mm,
So what I tell my team is, okay, our vans encompass the entire state of Kentucky where we provide comprehensive services on these vans. I have 1.6 million potential customers, and we don't just see Medicaid. We have other, Medicaid is actually only 40% of my business model.
wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
We have a lot of contracts with other places that pay fee for service and other things as well. But what I'm
Because
saying
they're
is
because they're excited for the convenience for
the
their
convenience of
employees
bringing the
or
services directly to them,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And so it's definitely a different approach. But if I have 1.6 million potential customers, because 40% of the 4 million people in Kentucky are on Medicaid, am I really that concerned if a patient
Mm,
is dismissed? I'm not. And we will dismiss you if you don't show up to your appointments. And it has drastically reduced our no-show rate.
yeah, that's powerful. So they get on this app, will they call in? And you said the insurance companies, are they calling on behalf of the patient sometimes or no? The patient has to schedule their own appointment,
So
right?
what's happened in Kentucky is they've allowed our vans to be the dental homes of these patients. So they assign providers to these patients. So they actually provide us the customers, if that makes sense. So
Yes.
they'll give
Yeah.
me a list of thousands of patients that are in that particular area because they want to try to improve their HEDIS measures. And they want us to do the outreach, which through Ascend and through some of these other voice over IP systems, we can send out a text feed. Hey, we're Care Mobile. You're been
We're your
assigned to
provider.
your dental home. Use this link to auto schedule or call this 1-800 number to do so.
Gotcha. So you're pushing that outbound and then they're doing their inbound either through the mobile text
App
and scheduling right there, or they're jumping on the phone and the AI is getting them scheduled.
100%.
Wow. Okay.
And the only time you talk to a human is if you're an existing patient. So you would press option B, and that reduces the call volume to where on average, I think we're getting 250 calls a day, but only a certain percentage of those calls are existing patients needing to actually talk to a human to help navigate their
And
schedule.
what's usually why existing patients need a human?
Well, it depends on if they have a specific question that the AI
Okay.
agent is not going to be able to help
Not
with.
gonna. Okay.
I don't want the AI agent scheduling treatment plans because our
Mm,
application, DentaFlow, actually can schedule the treatment plans with the time variations that I want in there so that the
mhm.
doctor has specific time, enough time to actually execute the services appropriately, if that makes sense.
Totally. So you've solved this, you're applying it in the state of Kentucky, you're servicing these underserved in an incredible way. So creating an incredible business model, but also an incredible service of access that people typically wouldn't have. And but you're also partnering with other dental groups, aren't you? Or
We are.
dentists, or I knew you
Yeah.
were before. I don't know
Yeah.
what the
Yeah.
current model is.
Yeah, so we're currently in the situation where we've the vans have done well, but in order to really get to the next level of growth or scale, we've decided to pivot the business model to make it more of a hybrid model. And this came out of one of the other challenges slash opportunities I had where Kentucky had no mobile dental laws until maybe about 4 years ago, where they said, hey, you need to have some sort of brick and mortar somewhere within a 70-mile radius in order to do what you're doing. And so instead of fighting the board, I said, okay, I can start merging with practices and then use the vans, as I mentioned to you earlier, as
As
a
an
tool.
extension of
As
their practice.
yes,
Okay,
yeah,
interesting. So
yeah,
what does that end up looking like? Give me an example of a partnership you have right now. And do those partnerships all serve Medicaid, pediatric, or can they be just an adult PPO group that is using this? Where are you finding the
yeah.
best application?
So honestly, we have partnerships with every single example that you mentioned.
Okay.
Um, and the partnerships that work the best is the provider that sees the value in the tool and wants it to be, if it's, when I first started this business, if you push something on somebody that's not really that passionate about, like we've had partnerships with certain organizations that is like, okay, I have 30 practices. This is one van with one chair. How much can it generate? And am I really going to pay attention to it when I have 30 practices that I need? They're not. So it's not a great fit there. But what I would say, if it's a practice that's a pediatric group, that has one location and they're kind of a newer practice. They just did this de novo and they want to get into the community and use the van as a co-branding tool too. Like for me, the brand care is synonymous with working class, underserved populations. But what we're looking at is using the vans that we build in Kentucky and wrapping that van and using it to where it's a moving billboard for that brick and mortar practice,
Hmm.
as well as a way for that brick and mortar practice to have that moving billboard actually generate revenue for you, right? So the ROI on that
I mean, I could
is
see
even better.
even, we had 70 locations. You open up a de novo. The biggest challenge with a de novo is how fast could I get new patients
Yeah,
in? I would think it would be brilliant to have a wrapped vehicle with your brick and mortar brand on it.
exactly.
Be
Exactly.
able to sit in front of a grocery store and these other places, provide some level of checkups or, something like this, and
Yeah,
then feed them over. Oh, by the way, we're 3 blocks down the road, we're 10 miles down the road, whatever would be appropriate, especially if I mean, the most enhanced would be like you're in a rural town, you go hit the small towns around that to feed it in. But
100%.
even, yeah, any kind of we talk to, obviously, we have 500 entrepreneurs here at DEO, and they're all, this is what I love about this, Quan, is like everybody's trying these different things, and
Yeah,
what you're doing is incredible. But then you start looking for synergies. And what everyone always asks me is, should I, acquire a practice or should I do a de novo? And it's like, well, let's choose your poison, right?
yeah,
One has revenue stream and a bunch of crazy people you're going to have to integrate in, and the other, you get to decide the crazy people and you got to find the patients. I would
100%.
think for the patient finding component and the
It's
branding,
it's huge.
I mean,
It's
better
huge.
than a flyer, better than
It's
a
yeah,
billboard,
yeah. Every time I get gas in a van, you're handing a card out to somebody.
Somebody's wanting to get in the back.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. So you think about it,
Does
everyone
everybody
is,
have their mouth open, pointing to a tooth
well,
while they're
everybody
trying to
wants to
pump
see what's
gas?
going on inside of it. So you open the
Oh,
door, let them
gotcha.
see what's inside, and they're like, how do I make an appointment? So, you think about it too. Everybody is doing it the same way, right?
Yeah.
Everyone is trying to use SEO, search engine optimization, to get this patient in.
Yeah.
It's a unique way to do so. And especially if you're in a state that has general supervision, hygiene, or some of these other things, as you mentioned, you literally can have this hygienist out there and use synchronous teledentistry, which we do on the van, to not only quantify the magnitude of the opportunity, for this patient to come into the office, but just be a feeder source for patient after patient that you want to incorporate into these brick and mortar partners that you have.
Talk about those rules because you've got had to go deep on these, and most people who've just been doing their brick and mortar maybe haven't pressure tested whether those
Yeah.
rules exist, and maybe you know what states they are already, or maybe they need to do some research. But what do those rules allow you to do? So kind of explain those too.
Yeah, so general supervision hygienist, each state has different rules, and you literally have to contact the board to find out those specifics. I'm licensed myself in Kentucky, Ohio, Tennessee, and Georgia, and every single one of those states are different in their approach on what general supervision. Kentucky has the most lenient rules in the sense that the hygienist, if they've been a hygienist for a certain period of time, can operate without me being present. And Kentucky actually even will, um, if I bill out at least for Medicaid, a synchronous or an asynchronous teledentistry code in conjunction with the exam code, you can get compensated on that. And so what that allows me to do is to collect data, find out what the patient's needs are, do a great treatment plan. In a lot of cases, especially in these rural communities, they're scanning the patients right then as well. So that
And
if
is asynchronous, asynchronous simply meaning a Zoom call? I mean,
so
is this teledentistry at the end of the day?
we have a preferred telehealth platform that I've been using since 2018 that basically provides you with asynchronous options, which are still images that you can put inside their portal, but actually Ascend, which is the PMS system that I use, you can actually upload them directly into Ascend. I don't have to put those into the portal. But if I wanted to do a synchronous examination, I could do it through a secure HIPAA portal, have an intraoral camera in that patient's mouth. The hygienist is my hands, and I can converse with the patient and do a diagnosis, review the x-rays, and see inside that patient's mouth without physically being there,
Wow,
which
amazing.
provides me like a 97% accurate treatment plan that I can then treatment plan, pre-authorize, do everything that I need to do, and prepare for when a doctor will rotate into that market. Because basically what we do is we have our hygienists spread out as our partners throughout the particular state, but then we'll have our doctors rotate through the different locations in that state and provide the comprehensive services on a particular
Mm.
cadence.
It's almost like how you build up a day for a specialist. Your
100%.
hygienists are going through and building up a day for the general dentist
Yep.
or possibly a specialist
Yep.
even. And
Yep.
then that van's going to be back at that same place. I'm guessing you had to figure out local laws around parking those vans and powering those vans and
Well,
internet.
our vans are inverter powered, so they're self-powered. So as you're driving, the alternator creates energy. You just press a button, everything comes on. So that's
Are
pretty.
you Elon Musk's brother? Is that what's going on here? You're like building
No, no, no.
energy sources. You got that's incredible. Are you using Starlink or what are you using for your internet?
So we use Verizon.
Okay.
Actually, what we end up having to do is even in one state, certain carriers work better in certain areas. So
Mm,
certain vans might have both
mhm.
AT&T, and Verizon on there because one is better in one part. Some of those things you just trial and error, you figure out.
Right.
We haven't looked at Starlink, but like we were in Amazon's Global Healthcare Accelerator a few years ago, and we
Mhm.
were considering using some of their technology around satellite internet in the really remote areas. But we haven't incorporated. Usually one of those two work well, or what we can do if we have poor signal, you can do an offline mode where you can take the x-rays and store them locally to the computer and then upload them when you get wherever you need to be.
Talk us through this van. I'm sure several people are curious.
Yeah.
What does it look like, feel like?
Yeah, so so we use either Ford Transit or Sprinter vans or single chair. We like to keep the van smaller, so it's like the 144 wheelbase van for the Mercedes Sprinter because it makes it easier to drive. So me as a provider, I'm not doing work out of one van. I might be doing work depending on how the schedule is booked out of two or three vans. So that means myself and my two assistants will each drive a van to that specific location, and then I can work between those three vans like I would a three-chair practice that I can
Oh,
set
wow.
up anywhere.
Getting out, going to the next
Yeah,
operatory, which
yeah,
is the Ford next door.
exactly. But the
Wow.
beautiful of the single chair model, when you look at mobile as opposed to those bigger vans, is cost. If you get a big van with 3 ops in it, it's going to cost you probably about $700,000, which is a practice, and you got to hire a CDL driver to drive it. I don't.
Got
Our team is driving it, and my cost to build each of these vans off will be half of that, almost, right? For those three
it.
same chairs. And if one of them has to go in the shop, I can rearrange my schedule and just work out the other two, as opposed to if the big van goes in the shop, you're out of business that day. Correct.
Interesting. The
So
amount of iterations you've learned is
yeah,
incredible. Yeah,
100%, a hundred
on the
percent.
efficient. What procedures? Where does like the procedure
Everything.
stack in?
The only thing that we do not do on the van is place the implant. But I've done, we're scanning patients, we're 3D printing their dentures, and we're doing extracting seats, uh, crown and bridge, fillings, cleanings, everything you get in your normal practice. Like I said, last year, I think we saw over 7,000 people between Kentucky and Georgia.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing. What do you feel is like the next step?
The next step is to continue to partner and merge with brick and mortar practices we're looking at creating our own dental partner organization, our own DPO. And the goal is to merge with brick and mortar practices so that I'm not, when you say the difference between de novo and acquisitions, I'd rather partner with some people that have similar mindsets, similar culture, and similar philosophy, create this new holding company, and then go out and start making some acquisitions of people that would like to mimic the model that we've created of brick and mortar practices and mobile, and
Mhm.
using our tech that we've developed, and then use that and leverage it to do a similar model to MB2, where you're fractionally buying into these organizations, offering our tools to enhance those organizations and grow and scale that way. So it won't be just me building out another van here or there and expanding into a market that way. It'll be through more merger and acquisition, and then and growing that way.
I could see like if you're opening a new practice and you only have enough patients for 2 days a week, you could go hit another 2 days a week through mobile scheduling, something like that, and
100%.
then build up. Have because it's hard when you started de novo to have somebody like, "Hey, doc, can you work 1 day for me?" So if you could create enough momentum through this kind of activity, that'd be interesting. I could see it as, I don't know if these are all good applications, you're learning it, but I have a practice. I want to hire a second doctor. I'm a little nervous around whether I'll have enough patient flow for them. I'm going to have them work a day or two in the practice and a day or two doing mobile. I
Yeah.
don't know what the effort and integration and all of that is, but it's interesting. And I would think as consumers, I would love, especially if I was out in the middle of nowhere or having a hard time getting access, I would love the convenience of that.
What you find with most of those type of gig economy models is that some of the doctors that work for me, they only work for me fractionally, maybe 3, 4 days a month. But if I'm able to quantify a day through the data collection that's substantial enough to where they're like, I'll commit 4 days a month. I just want to make sure it's worth my time because it might be a little bit further drive. People are willing to do that. And in some cases, they are able to make more money on that day working for us because of the way we structure the schedule than if they were open 5 days a week in their office. And so that we've done that because, like I said before, but before the call started, a lot of people are like, well, I don't want to do it 5 days a week, but 3, 4 times a month, sure.
If somebody wanted to start mobile or they're, on this path, what advice would you give them having been through this journey?
First, look at your state laws. That's number one. Because, certain states like Georgia, for example, which is another state we're heavy in, um, we came into the market, the laws were one way. Then they rolled back some of the COVID regulations on teledentistry, and that impacted our ability to be as effective because it changed how we do business in our processes and systems. So you really need to know the regulations. That's number one. Number two, you need to decide what your goal is from it. It's always still going to be easier just to go into this brick and mortar practice and, see your patients, things of that nature. But the return on the investment for me for mobile is greater. And as I mentioned earlier, I started this business because I didn't want to drop 1.5 million and then hope hope people are going to come to me, hope it's going to work out, hope that the economy doesn't tank tomorrow. One thing I can say about my business, it is very recession proof. I can literally take these assets to wherever is necessary to make money, and there's always going to be somebody that's going to need that service. And
It's awesome.
those are some of the things that I would say is come up with a plan. Who's your target market? What are you going to focus on? Make sure that regulation wise things are set up, and then don't go it alone. We're always looking for partners. Partner with somebody that's now done this for 8 years. It's been 8 years, and it's been a while. And
It's
so,
awesome.
I have learned a lot. And there's no niche in mobile that I haven't done. I've done nursing homes, jails, direct to consumer, you name it, I've accomplished it. And however you dream of doing it, I think I could be a great partner, but also assist you in not having some of the pitfalls I've had along the way.
You're sitting in front of a regulators. Let's call it Doge. You're sitting in front and you get to remove one regulation. What would it be?
I think my biggest thing is let's let everybody work to their maximum skill level.
Mhm.
Um, we have 200,000 dentists, but we have 200,000 hygienists that want to have some degree of partnership and want to be able to work somewhat independently. My hygienists love working for me because they have more autonomy and schedule because I don't have as much fixed overhead to where I say, no, you got to be here 4 or 5 days a week, right? So if we provide these type of scenarios for our partners, hygienists, assistants, whomever, you have a happier workforce and we do more good within the community. So I'm like, let's cut the regulations to where this state they can't do this state you can, because all that's hurting is the patients at the end of the day. And I
Mhm.
also think that having a mid-level dental therapist that are able to be within all these states to where the simple occlusals and some of the other things that honestly it's hard for me to configure in my schedule because from a productivity standpoint, it's not as effective. Let's let that mid-level individual do that service
We
as
got
well.
we got over 50% of people who don't get dental care. Let's expand the market, right? Increase
100%.
the overall TAM. Um, you're in a unique place where you're serving the underserved, you're working on technology. Where's the market 5 to 10 years from now? What's happening? You're integrating AI, you've been integrating 3D printing, all these different aspects. If you could tell everyone like, okay, in 5 to 10 years, guys, I think this is where things are at.
Yeah, I think, we all see Elon Musk has these robots that I think will be our assistants.
Mm,
And we
mhm.
when we have to be very concerned about will these robots actually be doing some of the tasks that we're currently doing right now, right?
Yeah.
I think that's going to be where the market goes because the AI also has already done an amazing job from when I started using it. Like I've been using AI agents for 2 years. I've been using AI inside my X-rays for about the same period of time and just seeing how rapidly the technology has improved and how even the AI agent, when I first started using it, people would hang up on it because they could tell it wasn't a real human, and people aren't as it's more difficult for them to determine that it's not a
Mhm.
human. Those are the things that I think will happen. There's going to be way more technology. I feel like when my first practice when I graduated, it had dip tanks in 1999. And to think that now I have AI agents and AI helping diagnose and find caries is amazing in my
Yeah.
career. And I think you would probably say the same thing, right?
Yeah. And I think when people get nervous about that, remember there are things like creativity, relationships, and leadership that are very hard for technology to take on. And so when you talk about kind of living or working at the highest level of your license, I think as a human, live at the highest level of your license, right? Be be creative, lead, go solve problems. I mean, that's an incredible opportunity. And then you'll have this AI able to work for you to
Yeah. There are
solve
tools.
wonderful. Yeah.
Yeah, there's tools. At the end of the day, people come to me or any doctor on this call, not necessarily because your MOD is perfect, but because of your personality and who you are. And so
Mhm.
people are still going to want to interact with people.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
I'm not concerned about that.
Kwan, anything else you want to leave for us? This has been awesome. I appreciate your entrepreneurship, also just your vulnerability and openness around this. You've had quite the journey and you've stuck with it. And you're doing something that really is wonderful. You know, you're providing access to an underserved market, but the innovation that's coming out of that, I don't think if you haven't worked in Medicaid, you don't realize that some of the most difficult operational structures that have to be built in dentistry actually come out of working in that Medicaid market. The technology innovations come out of that Medicaid market. So you really are kind of on the forefront of what will bleed over into these other areas. So I really appreciate you being on and
I
sharing all
appreciate
that.
it. I appreciate
Yeah.
the opportunity, guys.
If someone wants to reach out to you, maybe they're interested, maybe they just need advice or whatever, or
Mhm.
they're interested in some kind of partnership, what's the best way to
Yeah,
connect?
email KWANE at KARE.MOBI would be the best way to make contact with me. LinkedIn, connect with me on LinkedIn as well. But definitely love the DEO. Man, I've been around the DEO now since Darren used to let me sneak in when I only had one van back in 2018. So, it's been a great partnership, and I appreciate you spotlighting me today.
Yeah, great to have you, Kwan. Appreciate having everybody here and those who are listening. Reach out to Kwan. Until next time, keep smiling.